Everybody this afternoon for taking time out of your schedule to join us here, having a great discussion and webinar on integrating ELA and engineering in the elementary classroom. I am Marlene Guy, and I am one of the professional development providers here at the Museum of Science in the EIE Curriculum and Professional Development Department. I'd like to welcome everybody here and thank you again for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about our goal for today. So our webinar goal for today is to provide educators ideas on how to meaningfully integrate English language arts, or ELA, and engineering. And so giving some ideas to help support you working on this. So EIE, so engineering is elementary, describes meaningful integration as engaging in real-world problem-based challenges that draw upon a number of disciplines. And so as we go through today, we're going to talk about how we are going to be able to incorporate all of these disciplines in a productive way that makes it very meaningful for children. So before we get started, we're going to have an opportunity for you guys to get a real quick introduction to helping this webinar go as smooth as possible. We know that Adobe Connect is a new platform for some people, so we want to be able to support them. So if you are looking at your screen, and in the top right-hand side, you have our little waving man. And if you pull down that drop-down section, it will look like this. And you will have an opportunity to do things like raise your hand, agree, disagree, step away. There's lots of different ways for you to be able to interact so that we can communicate for our webinar. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to click on the agree part. And once you guys do that, it will give me an opportunity to know that you guys were able to find that and the directions were very clear. And think about being able to support that. So once we do that, it gives me an opportunity to get going and move forward. Looks like we have a few more people that just need to find that little checkbox to agree. Fantastic. It looks like most people were able to find that. So I'm going to go ahead and have you clear that result as we get ready to start our webinar. Perfect. So as we go through this workshop, we're going to be talking predominantly about the ELA Common Core Anchor Standards, specifically for ELA, focusing on reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So thinking about those standards and supporting your students in these four main anchors. So we do understand that we have teachers who are coming from lots of different grades and positions, and that we work with children on different developmental levels. But when we start thinking about things specifically like the standard, this one here, which is Speaking and Listening Standard 2, we pull to be able to show you guys grade 1, grade 3, and grade 5, and how there's a lot of information that carries over and that it transcends. So thinking about in grade 1, ask and answer questions about key details. And then in grade 3, that scaffolds and builds upon it and determine the main ideas and supporting details. And then in grade 5, you would then summarize a written text. So it takes that same information that you have about oral presentation, reading text aloud, and then just building upon that to be able to help support that developmental level. So we're going to go ahead and start thinking about what this looks like. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to think about what ways do you use media to meaningfully integrate other subjects into ELA. So I'm going to be pulling out a poll, and as we think about this poll, there are two parts to it. So on the left-hand side, there is a poll that says, what ways do you use media to meaningfully integrate other subjects into ELA? And there's several choices. And so you can pick one, and that is the one choice that you have, that you get one vote in that. If you so choose to choose other, which is a really great option because we're always really excited about learning different ways that educators are using different forms of media, please check other, and then you can feel free to type in the chat pod to the right what that is. So if you'd like to share something different than a video, fiction text, nonfiction text, newspaper, audio recordings, images, if you had another, we would love to see what that looks like so that we're always growing our repertoire of tools that we can use with students. Infographics, that's a really great way of being able to incorporate that media where children are feeling very comfortable and confident. And it looks like we have a few other people who are typing, and we're going to give them just a second to be able to do that. It looks like most of our participants had voted already, so tweets and social media. So that is something that students feel very comfortable and confident with, and it's something that sometimes you feel like the students are teaching us on a regular basis. There's new things all the time. Scholastic is one of those things that's really great. So thinking about different kinds of print, newsprint, and all of the other forms that can support your students. Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and end that poll, and we're going to go back to the rest of our webinar. So let's see. So we talked about all of those, and we're going to go back and think about those Common Core anchor standards that we have. So we are going to focus predominantly this first conversation on reading. So as you think about reading, what you're thinking about supporting students. So we're going to talk about ELA and what we do here in EIE, and to be able to support that for our students. So all of our lessons, lesson 1 of all of our units, start with a story. So all of the stories introduce whatever the challenge is for our design and engineering issue. So we want to be able to support our students this way. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background information about A Stick in the Mud, Evaluating Landscape. This is the story that anchors the unit. Suman crosses the Karnali River. It takes students to Nepal, where people rely on innovative cable bridges called tar pools to cross flooded rivers during monsoon season. So they are taking this information and digging into the role of geotechnical engineers. So students must select a safe, flood-proof and erosion-proof location for a new tar pool. They work with model riverbank, they study soil properties, examine maps to assess the potential for erosion at different sites along the river, and factor in the villagers' preference for those tar pool locations. So we are going to be watching a video that's going to be talking about this. And so you're going to be able, we are going to have an opportunity to be able to think about the students and how to be able to best support them. So as we watch this video, this is Miss Laura and her 3rd grade class, and they are doing lesson 1 and introducing this subject. So I would love for you, as you're watching this video, to think about how Laura supports the development of literacy skills in her classroom, particularly thinking about that reading component, and to be respectful of the fact that some people's computer systems have a little bit of lag time. When you are done watching the video, please go ahead and check the bottom of your screen that you have finished so that we know that you have moved on. So we're going to go ahead and start this video.
In the Learning Lab, we always start with a storybook. And there's always a character who's really about your age. So you should be able to really identify with this character. His name is Suman. He's from a country called Nepal. You are way over here where that little dot is. You're in the state of Kentucky. He is almost all the way across the world. He is in a small country right here near India and China. It's called Nepal. Okay? Now I'm going to let all of you follow along in the story as I go. Here we go. Chapter 1, Journey Through the Night. Suman, Bua, my father, stirred me awake. We need you. My eyes fluttered open. I lay there for a moment, not sure whether I'd been dreaming. Chapter 2, A Distraction at School. What's a distraction? It could be a noise, it could be a thought, it could be something in your way. So when you see the title, A Distraction at School, what do you think this chapter is going to be about? Brianna?
Like Suman, he's at school and he's thinking about Aji, and he's really worried that
He's distracted, and because he's worried about Aji. Would you be able to concentrate on your schoolwork if someone you loved was in a hospital? Chapter 4. Now look at their house. What do you notice is similar to their house compared to yours?
it has furniture in it.
They have furniture. Bella?
They have pots and pans.
Pots and pans like you have in your kitchen. Abby, what else do you see that's similar to your house?
I see kind of like shelves.
Shelves to keep things on. Now think about the difference between your home and their home. Lexi?
There's a fire inside their house.
Ooh, a fire inside the house, and it doesn't look like a typical fireplace like we have. What do you notice, Rylan?
Okay, it looks like they're like sitting on the earth.
It looks like they're sitting right on the earthen floor, right? And having a meal maybe, because there's a pot right there by Aji.
Welcome back. So I would like for everybody to take a moment as they watch that video. We have almost everybody back, and think about that question we posed at the beginning. How does Laura support the skill development, those literacy skills in her classroom? So go ahead and take a moment, and in the chat pod to the bottom left, go ahead and add some more. We have a lot of people who have already added as we're going. So thinking about what we have, as we have lots of eyes on print, so giving that opportunity for everybody to think about and have that close visual image, being able to follow along with individual books is a great one. Clarifying vocabulary, making connections by those connections to the character, your age, those specific things, those map skills, those connections, again, lots of those connections. She did a really great job and making sure that this was very meaningful for those students, so that they had an opportunity to be able to see what were some of the similarities and what were some of the differences that would be experienced in all of these students' homes, in their lifestyles, but really having that opportunity to build that empathy, those map skills, comparing and contrasting. So thinking about how they did. Those making predictions too is a really great one. So they had that opportunity to be able to predict some issues, what some possible solutions were, that verbal pacing to ensure everyone is at the same point in the text. That's really great opportunity to be able to take that time to pause and support students, making sure that everybody is all together and they're following through. Absolutely. I'm going to give it about 10 more seconds. There's a few more people who are typing, and then we're going to go ahead and keep on moving. Perfect. All right. So as we went through that, we had that really great opportunity to think about that. So this video particularly, we pulled out our Common Core standard that focuses on reading that integrates and evaluates content presented in diverse media and formats, including visually and quantitatively, as well as in words. So while this is not the only standard that is addressed in any of these stories, it is one that was really specifically highlighted by this video, and we wanted to give an opportunity for you to be able to think about how the story is presented by this educator. So some of the things that we want to point out is that there are plenty of teacher supports, particularly in this reading comprehension area. So thinking about how EIE supports our educators, we've got our before reading. So why do you think the bridges are useful? What would our city or town be like if we did not have bridges? So really giving opportunities and reminders for educators to prompt and talk with their students about these possibilities and being able to think in this big picture way. During reading, what do you think might happen to a tar pool that was built on a part of a riverbank that eroded quickly? So really getting an opportunity to be able to think about the problems. Why do you think that Suman wants to go with his father to the meeting about the bridge project? So really understanding that importance and meaningfulness for this student. And then after reading, so summarizing, what did you learn about the engineering from Suman? So making sure that you're asking great clarifying questions and giving them an opportunity to be able to show what they retain from it is a really great way for students to be able to demonstrate what they've learned. So going back to our Common Core anchor standards, we've touched upon reading, and the next area we're going to talk about and do a little bit of focusing on is listening and speaking. So listening and speaking is one of those areas that some teachers are not as much focused on. So a lot of it is focused on that reading and writing, something that's tangible and something that's easy to be able to quantify. That speaking and listening skills is not necessarily something that we're actively looking for on a regular basis, but is just as important to have those really great oral communication skills. So we are going to do it by phrasing it and referencing to one of our units. So this is just passing through designing model membranes. And so I'm going to give you an idea of this bioengineering unit and where it comes from and what our students have. So we're letting you guys know that for that speaking and listening part is very prevalent in all of our units, but predominantly in lessons 2 through 4, which gives lots of opportunity for collaboration and communication. So membranes are thin layers that help substance get passed through, so those helpful substances, and keep those harmful substances out. So in this unit, students learn to think like bioengineers, and they design a model membrane to mimic the properties of real membranes in live organisms. This storybook, Juan Daniel's Football Frog, sets the scene as students read about a boy who engineers a membrane to keep a frog alive. Students then learn how membranes function and apply their knowledge of basic needs of living organisms to the engineering design challenge, design a frog habitat with a model membrane that delivers just the right amount of water. On top of that, students have that opportunity to be able to really explore the difference in what a frog's skin does as a membrane. So allow that water and air to pass through while keeping that dirt, bacteria, and viruses out. They get to do this in a practical way. So we are going to be watching a video about our communication, so speaking and listening. But as you watch that video, I would like you to notice about the conversation that's happening between those students. So really giving them those support tools to be able to have those really effective, meaningful conversations where they're effectively having that argument from evidence, they're sharing their ideas and thinking about that. So as we watch this video, I would like you to notice those conversations between those students. And again, as you are done, I would like to have you guys check this off. So this is a different class. This is a 4th grade class. And then this is Miss Jean Farashiki, and she is engaging the students and having those really great conversations about the materials that they would be using for their membranes. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this. And again, remember to check off at the end that you are done so we know.
The first step, have a conversation with your team members about what you have. How many members are in your team? 3. You have to value one another's ideas. You come up with one plan. You need to draw a diagram, make a list of what you will need.
I have an idea. I have a total good idea. What if when we take it, it's the cup. First, what we can add is the aluminum with just one tiny hole that. See how this tip, I can just stick it like that, and this way it can be a little hole, and then the water goes in slowly, it's not too much pressure.
Oh yeah, and then after that we have the sponge.
Yeah, the sponge, and then it goes down onto the sponge, and then it just sprinkles on there.
Yeah, but it would take a while for the sponge to absorb the water if it.
No,
okay.
there's going to be a hole there.
Okay, so what if we did it with 2 small holes?
This way, we're not going too fast, but the water is definitely going down onto the sponge, and then on one side, the water is just going, and it's trickling down on the phone. Do you agree?
I need to add
Victoria?
something. I need to add something. I think after we have the sponge that we should have
The felt?
2
coffee filters?
2 coffee filters.
Can you give me an idea why you would like that?
Because if it's just the sponge, it's gonna drip down as soon as it
Gets heavy.
And then after that, there's no stopping it. And at least, remember when we had the 10 coffee filters, that it dripped down one, like that. So if that happens, because as soon as the sponge gets heavy, it's gonna just go, and we don't want that to happen.
Something to slow it down a little bit, and then we know what we're gonna do.
All right. Do you agree? Okay.
Are we gonna draw it now?
Yeah.
All right, so I see that several people are already starting to type. We wanted to give that time for everybody to catch up for that buffering. And we're seeing lots of really great remarks. The students were listening to each other, which is really important. And they were listening to everything that we were saying, which is really an exciting opportunity to see young children do. Thinking about the idea that there was probably some background knowledge, that they did have that opportunity to have conversations and to support students in multiple ways. So this does not appear to be the first time that they've had these really great conversations. And I think that that's something to point out, that they had that prior knowledge and skill base to be able to pull from. And that is something that students do learn and have that need to be able to practice over a longer period of time. Those stopping and listening. So that's really important to have that conversation, to be able to think about, pause, and allow other people to be able to fully articulate some of the things that they're talking about. There was a lot of negotiation. So they were doing that. They were really persuasive about why they were using the materials that they did, why the materials they were choosing, and really kind of make that case. So really being very persuasive in their argument about why they believe that. So drawing on that prior knowledge, you remember what this did when we tested it. So that's really important. I think that again, asking those clarifying questions is really important, and teaching young children to be able to do that, so that everybody's going in the right direction and that they all feel like they're working as a team and coming up with something that's together. So thinking about having those thoughtful conversations. They used scientific thinking as they engaged in their dialogue to explain the plan. Absolutely. So again, that evidence-based conversation where they were choosing materials based on the experiences that they've had and the experiments or the manipulation of the materials, what they have come to that conclusion. They've got that data. So they take that data and do that. Fantastic. So we're going to keep on going. And I think that it was really great for everybody to have that opportunity to be able to voice some of the things that we saw when we watched that video. So again, focusing on specifically this video, we chose this Common Core Anchor Standard, which is prepare for and participate effectively in a range of conversations and collaborations with diverse partners. So building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly and persuasively. So this is something that is very much supported in that video, and it happens quite a bit in our EIE curriculum, as we acknowledge that engineers need to have this really great collaboration with others to be able to work and solve problems. And we really appreciate the need and the desire to be able to have these great conversations with their partners. So I do want to highlight that there are teacher support. So EIE really does believe in that importance of communication. So this is two worksheets that are offered. This is designing a model membrane. This is our Imagine on the left, and then the designing a model membrane on the right is a plan. And in both of these gives an opportunity for students to record their information and to be able to have it to have that conversation, so they can go back with this evidence to be able to persuade their partners, their teammates, that this is where they're coming from. And it really gives a great opportunity to help them organize their thoughts and support that process and happening, understanding that students are at different levels and different areas where they're having these conversations, where speaking and listening, they might need a little more time to process. And this is a way to be able to help support and scaffold that experience for all students. One of the other teacher supports in our teacher guide are explicit supports. We have these that are a little boxed off. This one specifically is for English language learners, and it points out, if necessary, to help students articulate their ideas to their group by asking them clarifying questions. This will help ensure that their ideas are considered by the group. So it's a really great way to be able to help support all of our learners, including our English language learners, to feel that their voices being heard as they are creating their solution to their problem, which is really great. So the last area that we're going to be focusing on and thinking about those Common Core Anchor Standards is going back to our writing. So we're going to be going and focusing a little bit more on the writing component of how this really can be incorporated with an engineering experience. So I am going to be thinking about having you guys brainstorm in your head, what are the different ways in which you have your students write in your classroom. So thinking about this. So I'm going to be bringing in a chat pod, And in this chat pod, we have an opportunity for you to be able to go ahead and write in ways that you have your students write. This is the more the merrier. So if you put something in, write in another word. Keep on writing until we have more and more on here. And if it is something that somebody else has already said, that's even more supportive, because then it becomes larger as we create this fantastic word cloud. So we're seeing lots of really great words. I see journaling a lot, letters, graphs are really great. There's a wide range of poetry and essays, reflections. We have lots of really great opportunities for students to be able to think about it. So those Google Classroom Docs, so again, going back a little bit to that media and how to best support them, all those different reports, organizers, summations, all these are really fantastic. And I can see there's a lot of people who have great ideas. PowerPoint is a really wonderful tool as well. All right, I'm going to give you guys about 10 more seconds to go ahead and finish typing some wonderful ideas into our word cloud. And then we're going to keep on delving a little bit deeper into our writing. Perfect. All right, so we are going to go ahead and stop right here, and we're going to keep on going. So thinking about supporting students in engineering in the writing part, we're going to use one of our units that's called the Best of Bugs, Designing Hand Pollinators. So this is a unit that introduces students into a different realm of engineering, and it supports students to think about agricultural engineering as a whole. So this is Mariana is a young girl who has created a garden with lots of different plants, and she is having a particular challenge with her ohelo plant. And so we learn, and students learn through this lesson, that there's different kinds of insects and plants and how insects pollinate plants. And then what would happen if the right insect isn't around to be able to do that work? So she solves a pollination problem for her ohelo plant. So the students become agricultural engineers, and they will apply their knowledge of insects, insect life cycles, pollination, and natural systems as they test a variety of materials, and then engineer their own technologies to pollinate plants by hand. So in this unit, we have pulled out a couple of examples of some writing. So this is an example of a writing piece that is from one child. This is lesson 3. And as you can see, this student has filled in information about being an agricultural engineer. So they have talked about the materials that they need, and what would not be a good material for this. So thinking about that explanatory text and allowing students to have an opportunity to make their case of what they want to use and maybe some of the materials that they don't want to use, and really thinking about that analysis of content. So students are feeling very supported, and when they make their analysis of what they're doing, and this is that great supporting document for that. In addition, we have a worksheet that would be from lesson 4. So in this image, this is designing a hand pollinator. This is that imagine phase. So this is a really great opportunity and tool for students to use and use that complex ideas. So they might have something in their mind. They might think about what a pollinator could possibly look like, but might be challenged on being able to articulate that. So this is a really great idea and opportunity for students to convey those ideas, and that it has that informative text. So thinking about labeling and drawing these really great images to be able to support and label their parts, their pieces, and really delve into what they're thinking about and how to be able to best create their hand pollinator. So when we start thinking about that writing standard, we think about writing informative and explanatory texts to summarize and examine, convey complex ideas and information, making sure that it's clearly and accurately through the effective selection. So thinking about how they can best support them. That organization and analysis of content. So we chose this standard specifically to be able to support some of those writing samples that we had. But again, going back to the fact that there are many different ways and many of our units that give everybody an opportunity to be able to write. And it will hit upon many different standards and being able to support them. So as teacher supports for EIE particularly, we understand that students have a different level of being able to feel comfortable and confident in articulating. So this is be an agricultural engineer. You might recognize the sheet on the left as being the one that was our first one that was filled in by our young student. And the one on the right is the same one. So this is also be an agricultural engineer, but it is different in the sense that one requires more, our one on the left, our A level requires more writing. The one on the right, which is B or our basic, our A for advanced, B for basic, is a way to be able to allow students to be able to effectively communicate and write, but giving them an opportunity to have some more prompts, to have less space so they might not feel as overwhelmed, but thinking about how to best support students in getting the same information and data communicated effectively. So we do want to acknowledge the fact that there are resources out there that support integration. There's lots of them that are available, and we want to make sure that you guys are aware of them. So the first one that we are going to talk about is actually not an EIE diagram by any stance. This isn't one of our resources. This is actually from NSTA. So this isn't even a Common Core resource, but it's a really great, and I'm personally a very visual person, that this is a really great representation of having our math, science, engineering, and ELA, and it's all kind of combined in this really unique way for you to be able to see a great Venn diagram of how all of these overlap. And so as you are seeing all of these standards all going through, we want to focus kind of in the center. So EIE predominantly focuses in that center gray area, S7. So a lot of this focuses on that engage and argument from evidence. So a lot of EIE's organization is based on that. This is available through NSTA, but we do have other resources that are available that are explicitly for EIE, and I want to let you know about them, these that are fantastic and available for you. So if you go to EIE.org, which is down here, and come up to the top where you have the EIE curriculum, you would be clicking into that space, and that would pull up, and then we would ask that you go over here to our resources. Once you click onto that, you get these fantastic boxes here that help support all of our learning. So this is a great link. And if you click on this one all the way to the left, that EIE video library, it takes you to this page where you have access to all of the classroom videos. So this is where we got the videos that you got a chance to watch our two classes, our 3rd and 4th graders, learning and experiencing all of that great education. The second area that I would highly suggest for you guys to go to is the content area connections. So if you go to this area, this is where it supports that extension lessons and other resources that are available for you to be able to help support those learning. So one of the things are extension lessons. And so these are extension lessons that are offered and available for all of our units. This one particularly is an extension lesson. And I do clarify, it does say arts at the top, but when we say arts, we really mean language arts. And so This one is a supporting extension lesson for the best of bugs, designing hand pollinators, lesson 1. It talks about the understanding of characteristics. So thinking about the characters that are there, and it also gives you even basic things like the lesson time and the prep time to support you, thinking about the descriptions, the strands, the standards, the objectives. It's a really great tool for all of us to be able to think about having those extensions on a regular basis. One of the other tools that's available there is we have literacy and science resources. So this right here is a standard literacy resource, and this is a great tool to be able to incorporate additional stories, storybooks, and other forms of media like websites that could be helpful for you to be able to integrate and have additional resources in your classroom. This one right here is talking about some additional science resources. So this is a really great way to be able to integrate more science into your engineering program. So thinking about the same thing, having some additional websites to be able to help support that learning. The last area I'm going to talk about is this right here, which is the connections to standards. This is a really great tool for you to be able to use, and once you go into there, it connects to all of the standards, including down here, where it would connect down here, and you can particularly see how we connect to different Common Core, including the Common Core for ELA. So thinking about having that tool to be able to support you as you are thinking and going forward for planning and prepping for all of your lessons. So we're going to go ahead as we are thinking about our time, which is actually fast approaching an end. We're going to start thinking about doing a poll and thinking about your ELA strands that you would want to focus integrating into a STEM subject next week in your class. So there's going to be 2 parts to this. So we have this, we're going to be choosing that. So we're going to choose one answer. And then there's a classroom application question that I'm going to put up. So I'm going to ask for you to explain how you will address this strand with your students. So we are going to go ahead and open up this poll. So again, on the left, I'm going to ask that you choose one ELA strand, and this is just choosing one. On the right, you'll be able to type in how you're going to address this strand. But remember this, when you fill this in, if you have more than one way that you would like to be able to address, you only get one answer. So if you need to add more than one bit of information, like you would like to be able to practice this and this, put it as an and or a comma so that you have your opportunity to be able to express all of your ways that you would like to be able to address those strands with students. So we have several people who are filling in our poll on the left. It looks like we have several people who are really excited about incorporating speaking, which is a really great opportunity for students. We've got a little bit of fluctuation going back and forth. Go ahead and choose where you would like to go, and we go start and get some answers into our pod. So we have, I will ask my students to write a summary of their experimentation to date. Oh, that's really interesting. So getting them to start thinking about what's happened in the past and start writing that down, that's a really great way of being able to help jog that prior knowledge, which is really fundamental for this. Drawing models of their plan or thinking with labels and captions to explain. It's a really great tool for students to be able to think about and process what they're having. It helps to communicate that to everybody. Let's see, make a claim for what they read. I will ask students to use evidence to support details and answers, absolutely. So making sure and giving them that opportunity to have those conversations where they cite evidence for that. That's a really great skill. That's useful in lots of things, not just for engineering. going and thinking about that explicit conversation structure, like the ones we saw those girls use. Yes. So thinking about that structure and how to be able to set the stage in classes, so that that's a regular expectation. It's a regular thought, something that happens, and it's not a unique experience. Absolutely. So thinking about that speaking and listening during collaborative groups so they can do some brainstorming. Fantastic. I've got 1 or 2 people who are finishing up. This looks really fantastic. Again, yes. So thinking about the summaries based on reading and the design and experiment. So really thinking outside the box. Fantastic. All right. So we're going to go ahead and keep on going. And so we are actually getting to the end. So I would like to let everybody know that we have time and opportunity. We will be here until the set time at 5 o'clock. But if you have any additional questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat pod, and we will be answering them as we go. I did want to let you guys know about some upcoming online events. So we have some EIE webinars, which are pretty much what we're doing this evening with different topics. So they're from 4 to 5 on Wednesdays in winter. We have one coming up on February 14th, which is Engineering Habits of Mind, and February 28th, which is Meaningful Integration of STEM Subjects. So that is a really great one. We've been talking a lot about meaningfully integrating ELA. This is an opportunity to be able to build upon that. You can register for free at our website, so please feel free to go to our website and do a little bit more exploring. I also want you guys to know that we have EIE online courses. So this is an intro to engineering for elementary educators. These will be happening on February 17th, February 24th, and March 3rd from 11 a.m. to 12:30. These are on Saturdays, so just for you to be aware. We have session 1 that's going to be talking about what is technology, what is engineering. Session 2 is engineering in the elementary classroom, and session 3 is preparing for implementation. These are a really great opportunity for you to be able to explore and build upon. So these are set up to build upon the knowledge from session 1, session 2, and session 3. And I would love for you guys to take the opportunity to go to our online website and be able to check out those PDs that are available, and encourage you to be able to learn a little bit more about that. I want to make sure that all of you guys are aware of our contact information, that we are on Facebook, we are also on Twitter, and want to make sure that you have access to us after this is done to be able to support you. And we want to thank you for being here. But before we go, I'm going to go ahead and pass out a survey. So we have a webinar survey that we're going to ask for you to go. It's going to either bump up before or in front of or behind this. You still have access to be able to hear and talk and communicate with all of us. But we will be here after you fill it out. So please go ahead and do that, and then come back, ask some questions, and I will be here along with Mary, and we will answer any questions that we can to be able to support you guys as you go. This has been a wonderful experience. Thank you very much.